You've probably heard it 100 times. Face framing layers are flattering at any age. Or maybe you've been told to soften around the jaw. Add a little taper, a little volume, just enough lift. Sounds smart, right? Except now, something's off. The lift isn't lifting. The frame doesn't frame. And somehow, your jawline, the one you used to barely think about, suddenly looks heavier, blurrier, like it's dragging the whole style downward. It's not your face, it's not even your cut. It's the way aging hair interacts with shape and how old habits keep pulling everything in the wrong direction. In this video, we're getting into the 5 most common styling mistakes that subtly sabotage your jawline after 60. Not dramatic hacks, not dramatic changes, just 5 familiar habits that quietly shift the balance in all the wrong ways. Because once you understand how your hair is shaping the lower half of your face, the fixes feel almost effortless. Ever catch your reflection and think, why does my whole face feel wider today? You're about to see why. You've probably asked for them, maybe even insisted. Just a few face-framing layers to soften things up. It's been the go-to fix for decades. Stylists say it flatters the cheekbones, draws attention upward, balances the cut, and for a long time, it did. But here's what most of us weren't told. After 60, that same trick can quietly backfire. On aging hair, especially when it's finer or more porous, those soft layers don't always behave. Instead of blending or lifting, they can sit flat against the cheeks, creating a visual line that pulls the eye horizontally. Suddenly, what was supposed to contour is actually widening the face, especially if the jawline is already softening, and most of ours are. Those layers do the opposite of what they used to. They flatten the cheek area and leave the lower half of the face feeling heavier, more squared off. And the worst part? It's subtle. You don't see it until you look at photos. Side angle, natural light. And then, there it is. That extra width, right where you didn't want it. A friend of mine had a gorgeous cut on paper, but every time she smiled, the hair around her cheeks pushed outward. I thought it was volume at first, but it wasn't. It was the way those front layers sat. They were straightening the whole silhouette and working against her neckline. What helped? Moving the shortest layer just half an inch below the chin, not on it. Suddenly, her jaw looked longer. The face opened up. She didn't lose softness. She just stopped compressing the sides. If your face framers feel like they've stopped doing their job, they probably have. Try nudging the weight line lower, especially if your jaw is feeling rounder than it used to. And the next mistake? It's hiding in the one thing that's supposed to slim everything down. It almost always does the opposite. It sounds like a no-brainer. Thinner ends mean a lighter look, less bulk, more movement, and a cleaner line, especially around the neck. So many of us have asked for it. Just thin it out a bit at the bottom. I don't want it to look heavy. And on thick hair, that's often exactly what works. But here's the twist. On aging hair, that taper doesn't just lighten the ends. It can actually make the lower half of the face feel heavier. It's all about the way the eye follows shape. When your ends are soft, feathery, and noticeably narrower than your cheek or jaw area, you're creating a triangle. Not the lifting kind. The kind that subtly widens everything above it. The contrast exaggerates the width. Your jawline suddenly feels fuller, even if it hasn't changed. The hair's doing it, creating a visual anchor that adds weight, not air. I had a client who kept trimming the bottom for bounce, but the more she tapered, the more top-heavy she looked. It didn't hit her until she pulled her hair back one day and said, Why do I look better like this than when it's down? It's because the fullness she needed was in the wrong spot. Her hair flared out at the cheekbones and collapsed by the collarbone, giving her jaw zero support. A shift? Blunt doesn't have to mean bulky. We started keeping the last inch just a bit denser, not thick, just not wispy. The change was instant. Her jawline looked cleaner, even though we hadn't touched the length. If you've been chasing softness by thinning the ends, try this instead. Preserve a little weight at the base. Especially if your jaw is starting to soften, you need structure down low, not just air up top. And the next mistake? It's what happens when volume lands in exactly the wrong place and ends up pushing everything sideways. We all do it. Fluff near the crown, tease around the temples, maybe even flip the ends to add life. It feels instinctive. More volume means more lift, and lift is always good, right? Except not always, especially not around the cheeks. Here's the subtle issue. When volume shows up in the wrong spot, like right at the sides of your face, it doesn't lift, it spreads. And instead of creating height or balance, it adds puff, right at cheek level. You don't always see it in the mirror. But in profile, or worse, in photos, that side volume becomes a shelf. It pushes the eye outward and flattens the entire silhouette, especially from the jawline up. Suddenly, your lower face looks wider, your cheekbones less defined, and everything feels off. One woman I work with kept saying her style looked clunky by lunch. The shape just sort of deflated into this side-heavy puff. At first, we thought it was product, but no, it was the way she was drying her hair, pushing volume out instead of up. Once she started lifting from just behind the crown and leaving the sides alone, the difference was immediate. Her jaw looked cleaner, the cheekbones higher, and that roundness disappeared. It's not about losing volume. It's about placing it like scaffolding, not stuffing it into the middle of your face. If your cheeks feel fuller than they used to, check your drying technique. Are you pulling the roots upward? Or are you building volume that puffs at the sides and cuts off the jawline's lift? Try brushing back and slightly up from behind the temples, not directly at them. Let the cheek area breathe. And the next mistake? It's not about how you style. It's what you're styling with. And it's probably sitting in your drawer right now. It sounds smart, right? Smooth the flyaways, add a little shine, maybe seal things in with a finishing cream or serum. You're doing what stylists have told you for years. Polish the shape, lock in the style, fight the frizz. But here's the problem. That final product? It's often the exact thing dragging your whole face down. And most of us apply it last, right when the shape's in place, just before walking out the door. But especially after 60, when hair is finer or more porous, that product doesn't just finish the look. It shifts the weight. And if it lands anywhere near the crown or mid-lengths, it flattens the top, flares the sides, and exaggerates the lower face. What? That shine you're chasing? It starts to read as oil. That polished finish? It's what's blurring your natural lift and compressing everything from the temples down. I had a woman tell me, it looks amazing at home, but the second I'm in daylight, it's like my whole face sinks. We traced it back to one pump of smoothing cream, lightly raked over the top layer. Just enough to pull everything out of alignment. The fix wasn't cutting more layers or switching shampoos. It was simply keeping product off the crown and switching to a spray with a touch of grip, not gloss. Something that holds the shape instead of coating it. If you love a serum or a softening cream, use it below the jaw, not above it. Let the crown breathe. Let the sides stay light. Your cut will lift better, and your face won't fight the shape you just styled. Try this once. Skip the top layer. Apply from the ends upward, stopping right where your cheek starts. Then check your profile. It's not dramatic. It doesn't involve scissors, and you've probably done it 100 times without thinking. That final comb through, smoothing the sides, tucking a piece, pushing everything just so before you head out. Here's the kicker. That one comb angle, it might be doing more to your jawline than anything else. Because when you drag the comb straight down, or worse, toward the neck, you're not just neatening things up. You're shifting weight downward. You're pressing the shape flat against the lower face, dragging the volume away from where it's needed most. And the result? Even with a great cut, the whole look feels heavier, blurrier, slightly older. You've lost the line, not because the cut failed, but because the comb did. I didn't even realize it myself until a friend snapped a candid of me at brunch. My hair was styled, polished, and completely collapsed at the sides. I'd done what I always do, smoothed it down, tucked it neatly behind one ear. But in that photo, my jawline looked rounder, my face flatter. The whole style felt like it sank an inch. What changed everything? Shifting the angle, just a little. Instead of combing down, I started lifting as I moved back, following the cheekbone, not the jaw. Even the tiniest tilt up changes the visual direction of the style. It's not volume, it's alignment. And when you're over 60, that kind of alignment matters more than ever. Our faces are shifting, just a little. But so are the rules. Try it next time. Run your fingers through your hair instead of a comb. And when you do, move upward and back, like you're echoing your glasses or softening your neckline. Not pulling against it. It's small, but once you see what it does for your profile, it's hard to unsee. Most of us don't make these mistakes because we're careless. We make them because they used to work, or because someone told us they still should. A little taper here, a smoothing cream there, just a quick tuck behind the ear. And then one day, the mirror gives back something we didn't expect. A jawline that feels heavier, a style that won't hold, a face that looks slightly out of balance, even when everything should work. But here's the good news. This isn't about chasing youth. It's about understanding the way your hair interacts with your face now, not 10 years ago, not according to an old salon playbook. And once you catch those quiet little habits, the ones that flatten or widen or blur the line, the fix isn't hard. It's actually kind of thrilling, because you see the change instantly. Not in theory, in profile, in confidence. If even one of these felt familiar, you're not off track. You're just ahead of the curve, learning how to let your hair support your face, not fight it. Which one hit you hardest? Let me know. I read every word. And if you've ever wondered why some styles look instantly modern after 60, even with no big change, that one's coming next. Stick around. You'll want to see it.